My world absolutely imploded the day I overheard Kevin, my own business partner and a guy I trusted like a brother, laughing on the phone about how he was about to screw me over and snatch everything we'd built. The rage that filled me was so intense, so raw, I knew right then and that this wouldn't just be a fight, it would be a reckoning. You gotta understand, this wasn't just some casual business thing. For 5 solid years, Kevin and I had practically lived and breathed innovative solutions. Our tiny tech startup, our baby. We'd started it in my cramped garage, surrounded by takeout boxes and a constant hum of overworked servers. The air was thick with the smell of ambition and stale coffee day in, day out. We poured every ounce of our energy, every last dime we had, into this thing. Blood, sweat, and more tears than I cared to admit. I remember nights we'd be coding, heads down, the only sound the click-clack of keyboards, and then one of us would look up, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m., and just grin, you know. That shared understanding, that unspoken belief that we were building something incredible. He was the smooth talker, the ideas guy, and I was the nuts and bolts tech head who made those dreams a reality. Or so I believed. I trusted him implicitly. Asterisk implicitly asterisk. Every wild idea he had, I'd find a way. Every strategy, every pitch, we crafted them together, side by side. My savings. Gone into the company. My social life? Non-existent. But it felt worth it because we were a team. More than a team, really. We were like brothers forging our empire. Mark, he'd say, slinging an arm around my shoulder after a small win, we're gonna be legends, you and I, just wait and see. And I believed him. God, how I believed him. There were lean times, oh yeah. Times when ramen noodles felt like a gourmet meal, when the threat of eviction from our tiny, rented office space loomed large. I remember one particularly brutal winter, the heating in our shoebox office broke. We worked in parkas and fingerless gloves, fueled by sheer willpower and lukewarm instant coffee huddled around a tiny space heater. Kevin even brought in a thermos of his mom's chicken soup one day. Can't have my genius coder freezing to death, he joked. Little gestures like that, they cemented him in my mind as family. How could this guy, this asterisk guy, ever turn on me? The thought wouldn't have even crossed my mind back then. It was unthinkable. And then things started to click. Our software, the one we'd slaved over, started getting noticed. We landed a few decent clients, then a bigger one. The buzz was building. We were finally on the cusp, you know. That feeling, like standing on the edge of a diving board, heart pounding, knowing you're about to make a huge splash. We'd talk for hours, late into the night, not about code anymore, but about the future. Expanding, hiring, maybe even a fancy office with actual windows. The dream wasn't just a dream anymore, it was tangible. I could almost feel the weight of that success, taste the victory. We were so close, just inches from the finish line, from everything we'd ever worked for. We were gonna make it. Together. It started subtly, you know? Like a tiny crack in a foundation you don't notice until the walls start to shake. Kevin, he got distant. Those late-night coding sessions, the ones fueled by stale pizza and a shared dream, they became fewer and farther between. Big picture stuff, Mark, he'd say, clapping me on the shoulder, but his eyes, they wouldn't quite meet mine. Client management got a schmooze. Schmoozing I understood. But this felt different. Colder. Then the calls started. Hushed tones, him stepping out of the office, that smooth, practiced laugh of his echoing faintly down the hall. Just handling some delicate negotiations, he claimed, flashing a charming smile that used to make me believe anything was possible. Nah. It just made my stomach clench. Delicate with whom? And why wasn't I the guy who built the tech they were negotiating asterisk about asterisk in on these calls? Our biggest client, MS, Albert Chopper's attack, ran a logistics empire, and she'd always appreciated straight talk, which usually came from asterisk birth asterisk if it suddenly became Kevin's exclusive domain. Easier for her, Mark, single point of contact, more streamlined, he'd said, so casually it almost sounded believable. Almost. My gut was screaming. Streamlined? We're asterisk the stream. 2 sides of the same coin. This felt like he was trying to flip the coin and make sure only his side landed face up. One afternoon, I was heading to the crappy little break room, the one with the perpetually sputtering coffee machine, and I passed our tiny, glass-walled conference room. The door was just a hair ajar, and I heard Kevin's voice. That low, confidential purr he used when he was trying to be extra persuasive. I couldn't help it. I paused. Technical hurdles, of course, he was saying. And then, clear as a bell, Mark's a brilliant guy, truly, but sometimes, well, his approach can be a bit asterisk old school asterisk. Old school? Asterisk old school? Asterisk, the word slammed into me, knocked the breath right out of my lungs. I was the architect of every damn innovative feature we had. I was the one pulling all-nighters to make his visionary ideas actually asterisk work asterisk. My hands clenched. It wasn't just an insult, it was a calculated strike. He was painting me as a dinosaur, a relic. Asterisk is asterisk words, designed to diminish asterisk my asterisk value to MS Albright, who I knew was on the other end of the call. A cold dread, icy and sharp, pierced through me. This wasn't just ambition anymore. This was a betrayal. Deep and venomous. My so-called brother, the guy I'd trusted with my savings, my future, my asterisk everything asterisk, was actively trying to undermine me, to paint me as incompetent to our most crucial client. I started digging. Quietly. Carefully. His online calendar, once a shared space for our strategy sessions, was now peppered with private meeting blocks. Always around lunchtime. Always vague. Then a stroke of luck, or maybe just his carelessness. An expense receipt peeking out from the shredder bin he hadn't quite emptied. Lunchy at Ashen Grill C. Albright. The Ashen Grill. The kind of place you take someone you're trying to seriously impress, or seriously screw over. And I damn well knew which one it was. My heart felt like a trapped bird thrashing against my ribs. How many of these private meetings had there been? What poison was he dripping into her ear about me? About my work? About Asterisk, our Asterisk company. The company I bled for. The next time one of those private meetings popped up, I did something I'd never imagined I'd do. I followed him. It felt dirty. Like I was betraying some unspoken code. But he'd already shattered that code, hadn't he? Smashed it into a million pieces. And there he was. Striding into the Ashen Grill, all confidence and expensive cologne, greeted by the maitre d' like a regular. Asterisk a regular. Asterisk the word twisted in my gut. I watched from a coffee shop across the street, a latte I'd bought turning to acid in my stomach. Mess, Albright arrived a few minutes later, all business, her expression unreadable. I saw Kevin lean in, that charming smile plastered on his face, his hands gesturing, weaving some narrative. He was animated, passionate, the picture of a solo visionary. And she was listening. Nodding. The old-school comment echoed in my head, louder this time. He wasn't just suggesting it, he was asterisk selling asterisk it. Selling asterisk her asterisk on the idea that asterisk he asterisk was innovative, and I was just the hired help. The disposable part. The knife he'd plunged into my back wasn't just sharp, it was serrated, twisting with every ingratiating smile he flashed, every lie he spun. That night I couldn't sleep. The image of him, so comfortable in his deceit, played on a loop in my mind. We're going to be legends, you and I, his voice, once a source of inspiration, now a sickening taunt. He was trying to erase me, to write me out of my own damn life's work. The pain was immense, a gaping wound where trust and friendship used to be. But beneath the pain, something else was stirring. A cold, hard resolve. Fury. He thought he could just push me aside, discard me like yesterday's news. He had no idea. He had absolutely no idea what he just unleashed. This wasn't just about saving my company anymore. Oh no. This was about making Kevin understand that betrayal has a price. And I was damn well going to make him pay it. Every last cent. The boardroom. God, it felt less like a room and more like a damn crucible, the air thick enough to choke on. Sunlight streamed through the panoramic windows, glinting off the polished mahogany table, making everything look too bright, too sterile for the dirty business about to unfold. Kevin, damn him, stood at the head of it, radiating a smug confidence that made my skin crawl. He was in his element, the smooth talker, the visionary, the closer. Mess, Albright sat opposite him, her expression unreadable, a sphinx carved from ice and tailored business attire. My chair felt like it was lined with needles. Every breath was a conscious effort. My hands were sweating clammy. I kept clenching and unclenching them under the table, my knuckles white. This was it. The culmination of all those sleepless nights, the endless replays of his betrayals, the quiet, meticulous work Jenna and I had done in the shadows. Jenna. That woman was a rock. While I was falling apart, she was the one who'd looked me dead in the eye and said, "We're not letting him get away with this, Mark. Not a chance." Her quiet strength had been the only thing keeping me from completely losing it, from just walking away and letting him torch everything. I remembered her setting up the discrete screen sharing software on my laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. A small, determined smile on her face. "He won't know what hit him," she'd whispered. Kevin launched into his presentation, his voice smooth as expensive scotch, painting a picture of a glorious future for Innovatic. Asterisk is asterisk Innovatic. A new vision, he called it. A streamlined path to unprecedented growth. Each word was a carefully chosen barb aimed at me, even if my name was never explicitly mentioned as an obstacle. He talked about agility, about cutting-edge strategies, about a leadership ready to make bold decisions. The implication hung heavy in the air. Asterisk was the old guard, the dead weight, the boat anchor holding back his magnificent ship. I could almost hear him practicing these lines, his reflection nodding back in approval, that same charming smile he'd used on me for years now weaponized. He even had a slide titled Innovatic 2.0, a singular focus, and there, under leadership, was a single beaming photo of ****. My stomach churned with a noxious blend of betrayal and adrenaline. He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He was proud of trying to obliterate me. My heart was a wild drum against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Old school, huh? The words, his words, echoed in my skull, fueling the cold fire in my veins. He was so sure of himself, so utterly convinced he'd played everyone, especially MS, Albright. He gestured with expansive, confident hands. He smiled that predatory smile. He used that synthetic charm he'd perfected. I watched MS Albright. Her poker face was legendary, a granite cliff face, but I thought I saw a flicker, a tiny, almost imperceptible tightening around her eyes as Kevin laid out his plan to essentially gut the company's original soul my soul and reshape it in his own greedy, arrogant image. He was practically salivating, thinking of the moment she'd signed, the moment he'd be king. He finally wound down, his voice resonant with faux humility, like a televangelist asking for donations. So, MS, Albright, with your backing for this new direction, Innovatic is poised to conquer the market. I trust you see the undeniable logic in this evolution. He looked at her, practically preening, expecting her nod, her signature on the dotted line that would effectively sign away my life's work, my future. The silence stretched taut and suffocating, pulling the air from my lungs. My moment. My one shot. My breath hitched. My finger, slick with sweat, hovered over the button on the small remote Jenna had slipped me. This is it, Mark. No going back. Burn the damn ships. The fear was a living thing, coiling in my gut like a venomous snake, whispering every doubt, every catastrophic, worst-case scenario. What if this blew up in my face? What if she sided with him anyway, charmed by his empty promises? What if I ended up looking like the bitter, vengeful fool? But then I saw Kevin's smirk, that self-satisfied, triumphant glint in his eye as he glanced my way, a look that said, your finish, old man. In the rage, cold and pure and utterly cleansing, solidified into diamond hard resolve. He wasn't going to win. Not like this. Not today. Actually, Kevin, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, cutting through the chaw of silence like a razor. Before MS, Albright makes any decisions, I think there's some additional context she, and everyone here, might find illuminating. Kevin's head snapped towards me, his smile faltering, a flicker of pure and diluted annoyance in his eyes. Mark, I really think we've covered all the pertinent details. Oh, I don't think you've covered this asterisk. I cut him off, the tremor in my hand the only betrayal of the storm raging inside me. And with a surge of adrenaline that was part abject terror, part righteous incandescent fury, I pressed the button. The large, pristine screen behind Kevin, the one that just moments before had displayed his triumphant, grinning face, flickered. Then it lit up not with his carefully curated slides, but with the stark black and white of an email. Asterisk email. The subject line screened in bold type, Albright's strategy phasing out the old guard. A collective gasp, soft but audible, rippled around the room. I saw a couple of junior execs exchange wide-eyed looks. MS. Albright's eyes, sharp as lasers, flicked from the screen to Kevin, her head tilting ever so slightly, then back to the damning words on the screen. Kevin, he just froze. His mouth opened slightly, then snapped shut, the color draining from his face as if pulled by an invisible string, leaving him pasty and slack-jawed. Then another email popped up. And another. Snippet said painstakingly highlighted with Jenna, burning the midnight oil, fueled by bitter coffee and a burning need for justice. Mark's resistant to new approaches, too cautious need to position myself as the sole innovator for Albright. She responds better to my dynamic style, as code is solid, but his vision is stuck in the past. We need to move beyond that. And then the audio. His voice, that smooth, confidential part I'd heard through the cracked conference room door, the one he used when he thought he was being so damn clever, filled the oppressive silence of the boardroom. Mark's a brilliant guy, truly, his recorded voice echoed, laced with that fake, condescending sincerity, but sometimes, well, his approach can be a bit old school. Then, the kicker, a clip from a call Jenna had managed to retrieve from the server backups, a call he thought was deleted forever, wiped clean like his conscience. Him laughing with some unseen crony. Yeah, once Albright signs on this new structure, Mark will be redundant, surplus to requirements, he'll get a severance, be a good little soldier, he won't even see it coming, poor bastard. The air crackled with unspoken accusations. Kevin looked like he'd been poleaxed, like he'd been physically struck. His eyes darted wildly from the screen, to me, to MS, Albright, who was now staring at him with an expression of such icy, unadulterated contempt it could have frozen hell over and then some. He sputtered, his voice a strangled croak. This is taken out of context. This is fabricated. Slander. But his voice lacked all conviction, all of his earlier suave confidence utterly shattered. The evidence was right there, stark and undeniable, his own words, his own duplicity, his own voice, playing out like a horror film for everyone to witness. The pressure cooker hadn't just hissed, it had exploded. And Kevin, my former friend, my betrayer, was standing right in the middle of the goddamn blast zone. My heart was still pounding like a jackhammer, but a grim satisfaction, cold and hard and undeniably sweet, began to spread through me. He wanted to erase me? He just managed to erase himself in glorious high-definition Technicolor. And just when I thought the air couldn't get any more electric, a mess, Albright, who'd been a statue of pure, unadulterated fury, slowly, deliberately rose to her feet. The clack of her heels on the polished floor was like a judge's gavel. Kevin, he just shrunk under her gaze, his desperate blustering dying in his throat like a whimpering animal. "Mr. Davies," she said, her voice not loud, but so icily controlled it sent shivers down my spine. "Your attempts to fabricate a defense are almost as insulting as your attempts to defraud this company and, frankly, me." Her eyes, like chips of octopi, poured into him. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice, Kevin? Did you truly believe I, a woman who built her empire from the ground up by dissecting deals and sniffing outliers, wouldn't sense the rot in your sudden, solo ambitions?" My jaw, I swear, nearly hit the mahogany. Asterisk she knew. Asterisk or at least suspected. My mind reeled. All those sleepless nights, the paranoia, the meticulous planning with Jenna, thinking we were fighting this uphill battle alone, and all along, this titan of industry, this sphinx, had her own damn radar up. Kevin looked like he'd been slapped. He stammered, "MS, Albright, I assure you, this is a misunderstanding, Mark is—" "Mr. Davies," she cut him off again, a queen dismissing a particularly odious court jester. "You are a fool, a greedy, short-sighted fool. I've seen your kind before. You flash and dazzle, but there's no substance, no integrity, just a black hole of ambition trying to swallow everything whole." She paused, letting her words hang there, each one a nail in his coffin. I was considering a significant investment in Innovatec. Asterisk was asterisk being the operative word. Kevin's face, already pale, turned a ghastly shade of grey. I could almost see the phantom dollar signs in his eyes flickering and dying out. Then a mess. Albright turned, her gaze, still intense but now holding something else, something appraising, landing squarely on asterisk me asterisk. My heart, which had been doing a frantic drum solo, suddenly seemed to skip a beat, then another. What was this? "Mark," she said, her tone shifting, not warm, not yet, but different. Less ice, more tempered steel. "I appreciate your candor and your rather dramatic, but undeniably effective, presentation." A ghost of a smile, so faint I almost missed it, touched her lips. "It seems I misjudged who the true asterisk innovator, the true backbone of this company, actually is." My head was spinning. Was this actually happening? Was this woman, who held the fate of my company, my asterisk life asterisk, in her perfectly manicured hands, actually siding with me? She continued, her eyes never leaving mine. "So, here's the new deal, Mark. Innovatec is potential, asterisk you asterisk of potential, but I will not pour a single dime, not one red cent, into a company that harbors vipers." A gaze flicked contemptuously towards Kevin, who looked like he wanted the earth to open up and swallow him whole. "My support, my investment, my partnership is contingent on one thing, and one thing only." The silence in the room was so thick, so absolute, you could have heard a pin drop. My breath caught in my throat. "He goes," she said, her voice ringing with absolute, non-negotiable finality, gesturing almost dismissively towards Kevin, who flinched as if she'd physically struck him. "He's out completely, and you, Mark, you take the helm, you rebuild, you lead, with my backing." She held my gaze. "What do you say, Mark? Are you ready to clean house and build something real?" It wasn't just an offer. It was a lifeline. A goddamn miracle. My mind, just moments before consumed by rage and the desperate hope for simple justice, was now struggling to process this monumental, earth-shattering plot twist. Kevin wanted to erase me? It looked like a mess. Albright was about to hand me the damn eraser and the keys to the kingdom. My lungs, starved for air, finally remembered how to work. I took a deep, shuddering breath, the kind you take when you've surfaced after being held under water for way too long. My eyes locked with MS, Albright's. "Yes," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Yes, MS, Albright, I'm ready." "Kevin, oh God, Kevin." His face, which had suckled through shock and disbelief, finally landed on a shade of grey I'd only ever seen on corpses in movies. It was like all the blood, all the fight, all the conniving energy just drained right out of him, leaving an empty, sagging husk. He made a sound, a choked, gurgling noise, his mouth opening and closing like a dying fish. But a mess, Albright, my vision. She didn't even dignify him with a full glance. Just a flick of her eyes. "Your vision, Mr. Davies, was myopic and, frankly, repulsive. Security will escort you out. I suggest you don't make a scene." And just like that, with a crisp nod from her, two very large, very impassive security guards materialized from somewhere, probably the shadows Kevin now wished he could melt into. They flanked him, their presence an unspoken promise of a swift and dignified exit if he resisted. He didn't. He just deflated. Shoulders slumped, head bowed, he was a marionette whose strings had been brutally snipped. The swagger, the arrogance, the sheer, galling entitlement all gone. Vanished. Replaced by the pathetic, hollow shell of a man who'd gambled everything on his own greed and lost spectacularly. As they led him away, a ghost of a whisper reached me, mock-eyed, but whatever pathetic plea he was about to utter died on his lips. Good riddance. The door clicked shut behind him, the sound echoing with a beautiful finality. Mess, Albright turned back to me, a hint of something almost like approval in her eyes. Well, Mark, she said, it seems we have a company to rebuild, and a viper to expunge from the records. And rebuild we did. The next few months were a whirlwind, a blur of late nights, not born of desperation this time, but of purpose. A vastrous creation asterisk. A mess, Albright was true to her word. Her backing wasn't just financial, it was strategic. She brought in her expertise, her network, her sheer force of will. And Jenna, my god, Jenna. She'd been my rock through the storm, my co-conspirator in righteous vengeance, and now she became my true partner. Not just an assistant, but a brilliant, insightful mind who deserved her seat at the table. One of the first things I did, with MS, Albright's full blessing, was to make Jenna full partner, a VP. The look on her face, the tears in her eyes, that was almost as sweet as watching Kevin get frog marched out. Innovatic, reborn from the ashes of betrayal, began to thrive. We streamlined, we focused, we cut out the rot Kevin had allowed to fester. Our products got better, our team morale soared, and our reputation, once teetering on the brink, became synonymous with integrity and cutting-edge innovation. We didn't just recover, we soared past anything Kevin and I had ever dreamed of when we were just two guys in a garage. Funny, isn't it? I used to think we were a team. But I was yoked to an anchor, and I never even knew it. Sometimes, late at night, when the office was quiet, I'd stare out at the city lights, the same city that had almost swallowed me whole, and I'd think about Kevin. Not with rage anymore, not really. That fire had burned itself out, leaving behind something harder, something tempered. I thought about the naivety I once had, the almost childlike trust I'd placed in someone who saw me not as a friend, but as a stepping stone. Asterisk Mark was gone. He died in that boardroom, right before my eyes. The Mark who stood there now. He was different. He understood that the world wasn't black and white, that vipers could wear friendly faces. But he also understood his own strength, the resilience he never knew he possessed until he was pushed to the absolute limit. He learned that loyalty, true loyalty like Jenna's, was a treasure beyond price. And he learned that justice, when it finally arrives, isn't just satisfying. It's a cleansing fire. Kevin? Last I heard, he was persona non grata in the industry. His reputation was less than zero. Miss Albright, true to her word, had made sure his particular brand of treachery was well documented. He tried to start something new, some sad little venture, but the stink of his betrayal followed him like a shadow. He tried to erase me, to paint me out of my own masterpiece. Instead, he just handed me a bigger canvas, brighter colors, and the best damn picture an artist could ask for. And believe me, the picture I was painting now. It was a goddamn triumph. So, what did I learn from all this? Let me tell you the taste of that justice, man. It was sweeter than any success I'd ever even dreamed of. It was like a fire that burned clean, scorching away all the poison Kevin had tried to inject into my life, into my company. It proved to me, down to my very soul, that loyalty, true, unshakable loyalty like Jenna showed me in basic human integrity. They're not just words. They're armor. They're weapons. And they will always crush the kind of backstabbing deceit Kevin reveled in. It's a hard lesson, seeing someone you trusted turn into a monster. But when someone finally shows you those true ugly colors, you realize you have a choice. You don't let them smear their filth all over your life's work. No. You pick up that brush, you mix your own damn colors, and you paint them right out of your masterpiece, making it brighter, stronger, yours. And that feeling, that surge of knowing you took back your power, that asterisk, my friends, is a masterpiece in itself. It's everything.